Lore? Are you ready to start? Are you ready to start?
We are recording. The applicant is just outside, so do you want to wait for him to come in?
Just tell him to come in.
He knows to come in, so the applicant.
We can get started.
The applicant is just outside. Do you want me to bring him in?
Yes, we want to get started.
Yeah, so we get started.
As soon as we start, we can finish.
We have to start with it. We adjourned, so you have to start call to order,
We got
attention,
people
and
doing that.
pledge, the whole business to start.
Yeah.
We don't do pledge anymore, do we?
Roll call and all that.
We'll just make sure everybody shows up.
The regular meeting last time, right? The regular meeting.
I think she's gathering the flock outside.
John, do we still do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah.
We do, don't we?
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, we forgot it on the agenda.
Okay. Welcome. Okay, we started out with a work session in which we discussed the economic development, tourism, sustainability, trails and open space. I mean, no decisions were made, but we're starting that process with the review of our 10-year plan that's coming up. Okay, so if you'd like to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll start off with that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a roll call?
At this point,
Roll
we'll
call.
have, I can cheat you. Order and roll call.
Roll call. John DeVoe,
Here.
Ken Hartsfield,
Here.
Lee Brown,
Here.
Al Bungie,
Here.
Ellen Carrick,
Here.
and Larry Larson.
Here.
Our entire group is here this evening.
Approve the minutes for the June 24th meeting. Any changes, corrections?
I make a motion to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So approved. Under public hearings, what's going to be tonight is ZON 2021-07, Merit Academy Gold Hill Square South PUD amendment. A request by Echo Architecture, Ryan Lloyd applicant, and Gold Hill Square South LLC, William Page property owner, to amend the plan unit development, PUD development plan to allow a charter school at 703 and 739 Gold Hill Place, lots 2 and 3, Pages subdivision in the Gold Hill Square South PUD zone district. Okay, and at this point, we have the staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be presenting from the back, and I am just trying to share my screen here. All right, thank you for your patience. So this is a zoning application 2021-07. It is the Merit Academy Gold Hill Square South PUD amendment. It is an amendment simply to add a use, a land use, to an already existing zone district. The zone district is called the Gold Hill Square South PUD Zone District. The address of the property we're talking about is 703 to 739 Gold Hill Place. And tonight is July 22nd, 2021. It is the Planning Commission public hearing on this item. It is the only public hearing necessary for a use change to a PUD zone. So this will not be going forward to City Council. Just a very brief background on this PUD zone district. The shopping center itself was constructed in 1978 through 1999. Additions to City Market occurred in 1998 and to Gold Hill Wines in 2002. It was originally developed as a C1 zone district, which is a level 1 commercial zone district. And in 1996, the city rezoned the property to a service commercial zone district. And with Ordinance 726 in 1997, City Council did approve to rezone the property to a planned unit development, which is what it is today. And actually, if we just look at the photo here, this is the north end of the site where the school will go. This is where the hardware store was. And if anybody remembers, that's where Radio Shack used to be. That's what I remember. Anyway, so this is an amendment to the PUD. The request is for Merit Academy, which is the K-8 school that is being proposed. The Wagoners are the applicants, and they are here today and will be speaking. Echo Architect is their consultant, and I believe there is a representative here from Echo that the Wagoners will introduce. And then Mr. Bill Page of Page Properties did say he was going to come tonight, but is here. Hi, Bill. So he is the property owner of the site. So the Merit Academy is a proposal for a kindergarten to 8th grade school, charter school, or I've seen it also referred to as a contract school. So that's a good question for the applicant to ask as far as what that difference is. They are looking at 12,443 square feet of floor area that will encompass approximately 10 classrooms, 11 classrooms, I think that should be, an interior gym, a cafeteria, some administration offices, and parking throughout the site. So the graphic that you see here is the zone district. The purple, the light purple, is the planned unit development zone district, the PUD zone district. So this encompasses all of Gold Hill Square South. And the area in red are the 2 lots where Building 6 exists and are part of this change in use to add a school to that specific site. So this is the ALTA survey. I think it was referred to in the staff report. This shows the boundaries of Lot 2 here in red and Lot 3 here down below. This is Gold Hill Place, the cul-de-sac coming into this portion of Gold Hill Square South. What this also shows is the proposal for the hotel on the same site in the same building that was submitted a few years ago. But ultimately, this is the ALTA survey that was approved by City Council when the PUD zone was originally created. And all it did was show the existing buildings and the lots. It didn't have a lot more information on it. So again, the building that we're looking at is this funky shaped Building 6. This is an outline of Gold Hill Square South, and that's what the GHSS is. What's outlined in green are the properties that are owned by Mr. Bill Page in this area. So he has this little triangular piece and these 3 lots here, and Gold Hill Place, this cul-de-sac coming into the shopping center, is a private driveway, which is also owned by Mr. Bill Page. Lorraine Avenue is a remnant of a city right-of-way. It is a city right-of-way, and it goes right in front of the building. The building, you can't quite see it here, but it is right here. So when I say the north end of the building, it's the area that abuts Lorraine Avenue. Sandpiper Properties are the Loaf and Jug and and the Hometown Garage. To the east are the properties that are owned by the, I can never say that, Diocese of Colorado Springs. It is the Catholic Church properties. To the north are commercial properties and Gold Hill Square North here. This is the CDOT right-of-way portion. It is also the Avenue of the Flags or Lions Park. This is what we call Wolf Island right here, which is again CDOT property, and Highway 24 abutting the shopping center. To the south of the Gold Hill Square South properties that are owned by Mr. Bill Page are the rest of the Gold Hill Square South PUD zone district, and those are owned by TP Gold Hill LLC, not Mr. Bill Page. He has sold it to these new owners. Again, this is just an aerial photo that shows you the surrounding area. The site is shown here. This is Building 6. And you can see it encompasses lots 2 and 3. To the east, again, is Our Lady of the Woods Catholic Church. And the church is in the middle. And then to the north are other buildings related to the church. And to the south is Kavanaugh Field, which the school will be using for their outdoor activities. To the immediate north of the Building 6 is the Hometown Auto. And then a little bit north and above is the Loaf and Jug and Highway 24. As you cross Highway 24, you see Avenue of the Flags here, and then you see Gold Hill Square North and all of those commercial enterprises to the north of that.
Laura, may I interrupt right now?
You don't see my mouse, do you? Now you
Don't
do.
see the mouse.
Now we do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been pointing on the wrong screen the whole time. Thank you for that.
The
All right,
The
so-
question I actually had was, when we were looking at this particular graphic, is the Loaf and Jug site part of the shopping center?
No.
Not at this time. It is owned by, let me pull that back up, Sandpiper Properties, and
Thank
it's
you.
not part of this proposed PUD amendment.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. Apologize about the mouse. All right, so Avenue of the Flags, Gold Hill Square North, commercial CBD zone districts, Highway 24, the Loaf and Jug, the Hometown Auto, the Catholic Church, Kavanaugh Field, Building 6 right here, the old Ent building immediately to the west, and Wendy's on the other side of Gold Hill Place, the entrance. So this is the floor plan that was submitted and has been submitted to the Regional Building Department for review and approval. What you can see is this is north right here. So Lorraine Avenue comes in here in front here. You can see the classrooms. The bulk of the classrooms are in this part of the building. They're proposing to add some restrooms here, and this is the location of the gym. So if you can imagine Hometown Auto right about here and the Loaf and Jug further north. Here's the cafeteria that they're proposing with a small prep kitchen. And then the rest of the spaces you see
Yeah.
are the administration offices and the lobby and the storage.
Laura, can I
office.
ask, is the proposed interior layout a part of the PUD amendment, or is this just informational?
This is information
That's what I
only.
thought. Thank
The
you.
PUD amendment is simply to allow a school use in what is traditionally a commercial, retail, and business PUD zone. All right. So this shaded portion of the floor plan is not part of the school. All right, so this is again just to show you a little bit about the site itself. It shows the striping for the parking stalls that are all shared by all of the businesses within Mr. Page's properties here. It also shows the direction of flow that the school will encourage for parents. So you'll be coming in off of Highway 24 into Gold Hill Place, which is the cul-de-sac that most of us are familiar with. And it will be one way for the parents coming into here, into and around in front of the Building 6, and their drop-off and pickup area is shown in red here. And then the parents are going to be encouraged to continue on and exit at the east end of the Loaf and Jug where it intersects with Highway 24. So this shows you the parking spaces that are available. There are 82 plus parking spaces on on this portion of Gold Hill Square South, and available to the school and to the parents and to the employees. It also shows you the direction of flow for the drop off and pickup. There are no buses proposed, and I'm sure that the school will be encouraging carpooling to the extent that it's possible. So this just gives you a really rough site layout. So staff did a complete review of the proposal for a school land use in this zone district. We looked at chapter 18.30, which is the PUD zone district. Plan changes, which includes adding a use to a zone, is a section that is dealt with in 1830.140. Changes in land use require review and approval by the Planning Commission. And as I said earlier, review by City Council is not required and proposed. So the decision tonight is the final decision by this Planning Commission. Section 1830.010 talks a little bit about the purpose of PUDs, and it is to provide more flexibility and latitude in design, greater variety and accessory uses in the development or redevelopment of lands, and to encourage and initiate more efficient allocation and creative developments of parks, recs, and open space. Staff does believe that the proposal for a school use complies with the purpose in that it provides more flexibility in a zone district that traditionally has been a shopping district, a retail district, commercial business, and professional offices. A school use would fit in, would provide would fill a currently vacant space, increases the flexibility in the PUD zone district, and increases design latitude in terms of the building that's available and the spaces that are available and the parking spaces, and it increases variety and mix of uses within this PUD zone district. So staff does believe the school use is compatible and would complement the existing land uses. So there are a whole bunch of sections in 1830.080 which deal with the plan requirements. It tells a little bit about the development of a PUD zone district. As we know, this zone district already exists, so that they're not developing a new zone district, simply asking for a school use within it. But again, the requirements for accepted land planning practices, public health and safety, general welfare, light, air, privacy, convenience, congestion, public streets, highways, surrounding properties and uses, fire, panic, explosion, noxious fumes, flooding, and other considerations were all brought to bear on this application. And staff does believe it complies and is compatible with the existing land uses and with the PUD zone district. The second section here has a whole list of different types of items that we considered for adding a land use, things like the location, the size that they need, the surrounding uses, the dwellings, of which none are proposed, and parks, dedication streets, all of the typical planning considerations that you would want to consider when you're looking at a new use. And so staff did review all of those and did feel that it complies with all of the considerations for adding a use. We also look at the 11 conditional use permits when we consider amendments to a planned unit development. The 11 conditional use permit standards are listed here very briefly. Is there a need for a school at this location? Yes, this location is about one of the only locations of this size where a school that needs to be located could locate. So it's one of the only feasible locations for a school. And there's sufficient parking and adequate water and sewer and all the services necessary to facilitate a school. Is there any impact to public health and welfare? Any impact to property values? We look at how it harmonizes. We look at the comprehensive plan, the comprehensive plan, the existing 2010 comprehensive plan, and how it complies with current regulations. So the city plan calls for mixed use, which this would certainly enhance. This would be subject to all the regulations that exist within the zone district. They are not proposing to change any setbacks, any height requirements, anything. related to any regulations that may exist in the zoning code or subdivision code, and any construction of which there will only be interior to the school will require a building permit, and they are currently going through the building permit process. Staff also considers traffic. They did not do a traffic report, but staff did a very quick and dirty analysis of traffic, and based on our calculations, which are based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers calculations and analysis, 601 average daily trips would be produced. And that's a very conservative number based on the maximum occupancy that they're showing in their classrooms, which is about 303 students. I don't believe that their enrollment is that high yet. At any rate, that would produce 601 average daily trips. And then they're proposing 20 employees, so add 40 to that, say 2 trips a day. That's included in the 601. If you compare that to a hardware store, the transportation, the average daily trips, a quick analysis resulted in 639 average daily trips for a typical hardware store. So a school would produce less average daily trips if it's at full capacity, as they're proposing. So staff did a traffic analysis, and it really helps that they're proposing the system for coming in and out of the area. I think that the drop off and pickup and the stacking for cars might evolve over time as they see how it all works. But staff is fine with their first proposal as they've shown it. As I've said, carpools would reduce the traffic, and buses might reduce the traffic. Also, they're staggering their times, and the applicant can provide more information on how that will work, so that the parents coming in might be coming in earlier than when the shops are open. So that provides a little bit of leeway for the traffic flow and for parking. So the drainage, water, sewer, wastewater, no changes, and staff did find that there is available and adequate services for the proposed school. No hazards are going to be produced because of this proposed use, and the architectural design is as you see. There has been some minor renovations to the site, but staff does not believe anything needs to change on the exterior. We would like to see a little bit more maintenance in that area, but that is a property owner question. So staff did refer this application to various agencies and internal departments. And we also posted signs and did adjacent property notices to every property owner within 150 feet. We did receive some comments. You have packets in front of you with all of the letters that we received. Most of those letters we received from yesterday after 5 o'clock to today. So that's why they weren't included in your packet. A couple of letters were in your packet. And we did get a referral response from Kip Wiley, and the applicant is working with the utilities director to address some of the utility questions raised by Director Wiley. No other comments or concerns were received at this time. So staff does find compliance and compatibility and harmony for this use, and does recommend that the Planning Commission approve the request of the Merit Academy of Echo Architecture and Gold Hill Square South LLC, William Page, to amend the planned unit development to permit a school use at 703 to 739 Gold Hill Place, part of Building 6 and lots 2 to 3 of the Pages subdivision in the Gold Hill Square South PUD zone district. And just for kicks, I wanted to show you, this is the hotel that you all remember that was proposed on this same site. So Mr. Bill Page is here to answer any questions you have. But again, we are focused on the school. And that completes my report, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe anyone has signed up in the back. Nope, so you may just want to call for a show of hands rather than do a sign up.
Okay. When do you want to do that now?
Green white microphone, please.
I think what she's saying is that you forgot to sign up. Do you still want to talk during the public comment section of this that's not open yet? Okay. I don't see anybody, so we'll continue on, all right? I get that right? Okay, thank you.
Questions of staff.
Okay, at this point in time, we'd have the,
Speak into
And
your
staff.
mic, please.
What?
I'm sorry. Speak into your mic. Thank you. I'm sorry.
turn the microphone. Try to listen to it at home. At this point, we've had the staff's presentation, and at this point, the applicant will make their presentation. So whoever's going to come up and speak for you folks, come to the podium. As it,
We have lots of different people here to answer questions, but in terms of the presentation,
okay. And we can adapt to that. Okay.
is this on? No?
Thank you. Okay, here we go. I'm Gwen Peckron, and I am with Merit Academy. I'm the Chief Action Officer for the board. Ms. Riley, esteemed Planning Commission, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and we appreciate your service to our great community. I am here to present the school-related topics regarding the zoning discussion, and I hope this will answer some of your questions. The space we have leased in Gold Hill Square has served as a couple of businesses in the past. Based on personal observation, probably similar, not as in-depth as what the staff has completed. Over the past couple of months of Woodland Park hardware stores and other locations, it was not uncommon to see 25 or more customer vehicles coming and going throughout their busier days of the week. But as you may guess, Merit Academy won't have a large influx of vehicles in and out throughout the day, like it might if the space were leased by commercial businesses. This is a closed campus school. Students cannot drive, and staff are going to be primarily busy teaching students. We will have a small handful of visitors during the day, likely fewer than what is typically seen at one of the small neighboring businesses within that same time frame. Our school serves 190 students from approximately 115 families. We are at our max capacity. We will not grow enrollment through this year due to our capped class sizes. Currently, we have approximately 20 homeschool families, nearly 30 students, who have expressed interest in our two-day homeschool program. They will arrive later and leave earlier than our full-time students. In your packet, you will see on page 8, I think paragraph 13 mentions an estimate of 303 students, which we just heard as well, each listed as their own vehicle with the formula of trips per day, which was noted as a high estimate. As you can see with our number of families and not considering carpool or children walking to school, this is a high estimate of vehicle traffic, even for future growth. Our school day begins at 7:50 a.m. Sherwin-Williams, Kempo Karate, Wolfland Park, Anderson Pack and Ship, Aspen Interiors, AJ Pizza, Picket Fence, and other businesses in the same complex are not open at this time. Therefore, the traffic for drop-off at the school would be less than what is typical when each of these stores were open and serving customers. Based on experiences and processes of other schools of similar size, drop-off for this number of families, even without considering parent carpools or students walking to school, typically takes about 10 minutes. Our staff includes 14 full-time staff who are scheduled to arrive at least 15 minutes prior to school start and stay 15 minutes past the end of school. We also have 9 part-time employees. They will arrive and leave outside of the peak carpool lane in time. In fact, most of these employees will be involved in the efficiency of the drop-off and pickup lanes, including calling to one another on walkie-talkies, which family cars are coming up, so students are ready to meet parents for pickup in an efficient and expedient manner. This pickup time will begin at 3:10. Pickup for small schools like this typically lasts 15 minutes while everyone is learning the system, and after that, it will take about 10 minutes. As one of our staff members says, it's a well-oiled machine and extremely efficient. Now, we have already had families mention that their children are excited because they live in nearby neighborhoods and are finally able to walk home. We have children who will stay with their parents, who are staff, until peak carpool lane is complete. We will offer our after-school clubs, which will also alleviate a busy carpool lane. Some parents have mentioned that they have access to the school off of West Street, so they plan to pick up their children through Kavanaugh Fields. Families are already beginning outreach for carpools. Our parents are keenly aware of the pickup traffic time and planning ways to alleviate any excess traffic. As planned and promised, coinciding with the city's plan for economic growth, we are bringing jobs into our region. 13 of our staff are new hires into the Woodland Park and Teller County region. Our staff include 14 full-time and 9 part-time employees. Most of the part-time employees are scheduled for 3 days a week, as I mentioned, staggering schedules to support students and share classrooms. As mentioned, Merit Academy is bringing younger families up the pass, from parents to staff. Keeping families in this community and bringing new families to our area keeps revenues in this community, which we believe connects to the standards of Woodland Park city planning. This also supports the city's plan, and this is a quote from the 10-year plan that you have, and I believe it's also in your packet, to build and nurture a multi-generational family-friendly community which values and supports education. We not only have 190 students who are fully registered, but we have over 70 students on our wait list for this year, and 11 who are already on the wait list for years ahead, most of whom can't even walk yet. Thank you for considering the rezoning of our highly sought after school. We believe the school meets the Planning Commission standards for community growth and meaningful way of life. We also believe our plan for flow and use is considerate of our neighboring businesses and will be an efficient process. We are grateful for the ability to present to you this evening.
What we'll do now, thank you,
Yes.
is that since you have a plan for directing questions to other people within your staff there,
Okay.
we'll open this up for questions from us. And you can direct them if you want to somebody else
Absolutely. I will be happy to do so.
to answer that.
Okay, great.
Very good. So at that point, questions?
I thought it was an excellent presentation and you
Thank you.
answered most of my questions. I had some concerns about the traffic and the traffic flow and that you'll have people controlling that. I find very reassuring. I just wondered how Hometown Garage and their cars and their parking, did you mention them in their response? Have they talked with you or have you talked with them?
We talked with them briefly when we were moving in school furniture and they were very welcoming. We had not had a conversation regarding their cars and equipment, but we were under the presumption that that's their space. And so we would work around the rest of the space that we have.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, and I don't know when that building was built, but it could have been in 78 and not sure of what building materials were used in 1978, but just want to make sure that there isn't any materials that could be detrimental to small children since there could be something there. I just don't know if it's up to current materials.
Please come to the,
Hey,
introduce yourself.
hi,
please.
I'm Jordan Peterson. I work for Echo Architecture and I'm standing in for Ryan Lloyd tonight. The existing building right now, so most recently it had been cleared out, I think, for a COVID hospital, but that was never used. So currently it's a blank slate. There's nothing detrimental. The walls are CMU construction and steel studs and steel joists with a concrete deck between their floor and the floor above. So pretty typical construction and
Okay.
no hazardous materials that we've seen.
Good, thank you.
And this building is sprinkled, so it's got good fire
questions?
protection.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. What is your relationship to the Woodland Park School District?
We are neighborly. We are not chartered through the district. We are actually a contract school, which means we have been contracted through BOCES. It's a BOCES school, Education Re-envisioned. And so Merit Academy will run the school for BOCES, but it's your basic public school.
Is there any other questions right now? Question?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not concerned about the traffic when you leave. I'm concerned about when everybody comes in. I originally was told, and I probably was told wrong, that they were going to be dropped off at the Catholic building up on the top.
We have toyed with that idea, but we also looked at getting to the ramp and thinking about hard weather days. And so looking at the fact that there's no, of most of those buildings, with the exception of on that, what direction is that? The west side, north side?
The
No,
blue
I'm
arrow's
talking
north.
like
On the
Wendy's,
east,
like by Wendy's and so forth. Wendy's, City Market.
that's west.
Those, thank you. Those are primarily the only places open before we actually have our kids in the building. So class starts at 7:50. Everything will be done before then.
Have you taken into consideration that is when all the traffic coming from the west is going down the hill?
Yes,
And all your people trying to get out of there are gonna have to get out.
one way. Yep.
And it's one way. No, so, I mean, how many people have you studied going to turn left and try to get back the other way?
Well, that's one thing that we are going to discuss with our parents, but if they, they will find that that is an absolute hardship. So so the parents who might have to turn left may be the ones who are dead set on the Kavanaugh Field drop off. And we can have paras and teachers there walkie-talking those students up the field.
I'm surprised CDOT did not request a traffic study.
Okay.
Did we check with them?
CDOT has been advised of this application and sent the application, so they're looking at it right now.
There's another time, another meeting when that'll all take place. But I just want to make sure that I know it's going to cause a little bit of a congestion trying to get out of there.
Right. Yeah. And that is one thing that we've already started talking with our parents. And that's why the carpool situation and a lot of those kids who live off of West and Timber and back and been there, we're talking about walking to school.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have questions?
Yes. So for those who also going back behind City Market to leave. So for those who absolutely have to go left, one of the things they considered was possibly using the alleyway on the backside to leave. Although we have cautioned that there are deliveries. And so we're not sure how congested that would be as well. But we're looking at a number of different options.
Or they could turn around, go on the other ramp, go up and come out at the light.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, we will have, our staff is pretty much prepared to know that
Okay.
this is it. Yep. And they're used to it. Folks who've worked in elementary and middle schools are very used to doing traffic control.
Okay. Anybody else have further questions? If not, we'll open up the public comment.
Thank you.
We may have you come back up. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't have anybody that wanted to get up and talk, but if since that time now you have this burning desire, you're more than willing to come up to the podium and add anything you'd like to. Okay. At this point, we'll close the public comment and we will have, I don't think you need a rebuttal, but you can rebuttal. I don't know what you're going to rebuttal, so we'll go to the next one. Any final questions?
I guess I'd like some more information about the parking requirements for the school function and the surrounding uses, the office building, the other stores in the area or in the same building, and what are those parking requirements?
So from the staff's perspective and the municipal code, they have to provide 2 to 5 stalls per classroom. So they have to provide a total of 22 to 55 stalls, and there are 82 plus stalls on site. So staff did find that there's adequate and available parking. We do hope that the property owner restripes and improves some of the surface.
Laura, what do you mean by on-site? You mean the entire shopping center?
No, just on lots 2 and 3
Okay.
and the empty Ent building.
Can I also add that that number does not include the ones that are immediately adjacent to the garage next door. So it doesn't include the spots that they're typically park in there. So it's just the ones that have numbers called out on them.
It really doesn't help the point.
I know, it doesn't at all.
I am using my mouse. I think it's showing through. So in other words, building 10 is where the hometown garage is, and these spaces here are not included in their calculation. And that's owned by someone else. It's not owned by Page Properties.
So the school's not taking up the entire building. So there's spaces upstairs. How many spaces are they required to provide? And in addition, the Ent building also has 3 floors of office space. how many spaces would they be required? And what's the total capacity of the site?
So staff didn't do that calculation, just based on the fact that it was a retail store before and the use for a school right now. We believe there's adequate parking.
So we don't have any numbers or calculations to support that assumption.
No, but typically a retail store needs to produce one parking space for every 200 square feet. So I think that the few stores that are still there have adequate parking. We did not do the calculation. You're right.
Do we know what the square footage of the Ent Credit Union building is?
It's listed here as 2,658 square feet. Oh, that's Wendy's. I'm sorry. Oh, no, that's right. That's building 5. 2,658 square feet. That could just be the footprint. But Mr. Bill Page is here and he might have some more numbers for you.
Okay, Mr. Page, do you have any input on this square footage of the Ent building and parking requirements for the site?
Yeah,
Please.
we haven't heard you talk for a while. It's time.
My name is William Page. I'm the sole member manager of Gold Hill Square South LLC. The building, the Ent building has 8,432 square feet. There's 2 floors that have 2,658. The upper floor is 3,224, I believe it is.
Thank you. And then what's the total square footage of the building the school's going into?
That total square footage on the 2-level building is 29,300 square foot.
And the lower level is taken up entirely by the school? By 12, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Page.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I have a question for staff. Laura? The business that's located on the lower level of the Loaf and Jug property adjacent, do they receive their primary access through the Lorraine Avenue extension? Or do they receive access from other areas?
So Lorraine Avenue is a right-of-way, a city-owned right-of-way, but it does not access off of 24. So are you asking about how Hometown Auto gets to the site?
Yes.
So they get to the site, I would imagine, from Gold Hill Place, from this access here that is west of the the fuel pumps, and or this entrance here that is east of the fuel pumps. Those are the 3 accesses to this corner of the PUD.
The reason I asked that question is because if we would consider physical barriers to separate the school use and property from the property to the north, that may impact the access to this particular business.
So again, Mr. William Page could speak to that, but there are Jersey barriers that separate, I don't know if you can see it on there, that exist to separate the Hometown Auto from the school. I think they're
Right there.
right there.
Yes.
Yeah. So that does separate the traffic and works with the flow that the school is proposing.
Okay, to the immediate west of Loaf and Jug and the home auto repair, there is an access point that's shared between the shopping center and the Loaf and Jug properties. If that would be closed, that would present a hardship, not necessarily to this school, but certainly to those 2 existing businesses that are located there.
Yes, there is no proposal to close this. Is this the access you're speaking of?
Yes.
There's no proposal to close that.
And again, I was just thinking, how can we try to mitigate the proposed traffic flow issues?
I think that the applicant has demonstrated numerous techniques to mitigate the impact. I think it will be an evolution over time, and as issues arise, like any school, they will amend their route or their drop-off pickup as it evolves. But I think the applicant can speak more to that.
Okay, thank you.
Question. How many years do you plan to be there?
Our goal is by year 3, we're in our own building. And we have already talked to some property owners in the city and also outside of the city.
So at this point in time, it's a temporary for 2 years.
Total temporary.
Okay. They
Yep.
may want you to stay if they get a lot more business.
That's right. Yeah, parents dropping off and hitting the coffee shop or Wendy's or picket fence or something.
Thought it was temporary, just wanted to hear.
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
That's very good
John.
question. Thank you.
John, hi. I want, hey, good.
Would you like to speak?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
there we go.
I would like to ask, then the hotel would take back over, or that's probably not pertinent, but after 2 or 3 years, the hotel plan would come back into play for Mr.
No.
Page. Yes.
You would?
It's still valid.
So we can amend the plan to allow this as a use.
And the hotel is.
And the
already
hotel
still,
can come back in at a later time and say, we
Yeah.
still have standing?
Yes.
Interesting.
My name is William Page, and I'm here again at the podium. And I have an existing, what do you call it, Sally?
It's a PUD amendment for the Best Western
Yeah,
Hotel.
A PUD amendment for the Best Western Hotel. And it's in place to build that facility right now. And it comes up for renewal, I think in January of 2022, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
And I'll be applying for another 2-year extension. So I want to keep that. It took a long time and a lot of expense to get that PUD approval approved. I want to keep that in place because when the school has a permanent facility that's selected, hopefully the hotel market has recovered in this country. And that is it's a 70-room hotel. It has about a third of the parking underground where the school would be. And so it would be, I fully intend to keep that PUD approval for the hotel active with renewals on the PUD amendment.
Excellent. We'll see you in 2022. I'll still be here. Anybody else?
I have another general question about whether there will be any permanent type walls. I remember in the information, I saw a lot of room dividers with special sound capabilities, and so that each classroom can't be, I don't know, about noise and sound. And so I just wondered about that.
Sure. So the plan is to have movable partitions. That way they can be flexible with their class size and with the arrangement of students as needed. They are all, yes, like you said, acoustic barriers. And they go up, I think, 7'6". So not complete barriers, but what they can do at the current moment. And then the classroom 10 that you can see, that is the loud kindergarten classroom, and they have solid walls and an acoustic ceiling over their room.
Put the
Same with
band back with them.
Exactly. Same with the gym space, has solid walls all around it for the noise.
Thank you.
I'm going to assume that this, since it's a BOCES contract school, and BOCES is a
is a function of the Department of Education in the state of Colorado. They're gonna have to approve these plans anyway. Right?
Hello, my name's Brad Miller. I'm an attorney for Merit Academy. I've also I created the BOCES that is the authorizer here. They've entered into a services agreement with Merit Academy. They are a local public entity. They're just like a school district. It's a very stable enterprise, and yes, they have approval rights on all these things.
And you get the per pupil rate just like any other school does.
That's right. And they're in a services agreement with Merit Academy.
Very good. Thank you.
You got it.
Could you take, what's the best way to refer to your school if you're talking about an authorization for it? Our agenda says charter school, and that's not right.
That's incorrect.
Yeah, exactly. Could you tell the terminology that you would recommend to refer to this institution that's wants to?
It's been bandied about quite a bit in the legislature this past year because it's sort of new to the scene in a sense, but it's called a contract school. Technically speaking, the BOCES has authorized a school pursuant to statute. There's a BOCES statute. It's just like there's a charter schools statute. And the BOCES, like some other BOCES, has created this school. This one's unique in that it's a specific brick and mortar enterprise, out of where the BOCES geography is, and that's why it's in the legislature right now. They're trying to identify with more specificity that right of authorization. But through the School Finance Act this year, there was absolute confirmation that this school is grandfathered in with whatever happens in the future in terms of changes to legislation.
Before you leave.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the relationship between BOCES school and the school district again. I want to be clear on that.
So this past year, Woodland Park School District did not approve a charter application by the Merit Academy Group. So they had provided an application that is sort of set forth in terms of its content in the charter school statute. It was deemed complete, or it certainly should have been deemed complete in every respect. They had adequate student interests, obviously. They had all of the components of the educational program. They had a finance plan. And just for a variety of reasons, Woodland Park didn't make the choice to approve them as a charter school. They then had a conversation with the BOCES, which operates about 12 schools altogether with about 12,000 students in various locations around the state. And the BOCES agreed to interact with them to create this school. It's a contract. So when it gets right down to it, the Tabor law and elements of the services agreement would entitle the BOCES to find another service provider. They could say, well, Merit Academy, we'd like to, contract with somebody else. I find that to be incredibly unlikely, but that's the difference between a charter school maybe and what we're seeing here is that it's a BOCES school that will be operated by this group.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, if I could ask a question, since you're here, we didn't talk about the school calendar and the start date. I was wondering if you could help us with that.
They're compelled by statute to have the same sort of seat time requirements, 10,080 hours or something like that a year. They have to have a conventional calendar that all gets approved through an annual submission to the BOCES.
Less technical question.
Okay, sorry.
When does school open and when are your holidays?
It's pretty standard. It'd be like you would expect. I can't tell you. I think opening date is August 23rd. We're going to look through the permitting process and so forth to see if we're going to be in this building by that time. But we've got alternative options, kind of start the kids in the church type of thing if we need to.
Okay, so with families that have kids in older grades, it would almost be imperative to match your calendar with theirs for vacations and that, so that families can go on vacations. I mean,
I'm just a lawyer. I don't know this stuff. So,
okay.
Wrong person.
So yes, for the most part, we do have a fairly matching calendar with WPSD. I'm not sure what Cripple Creek and Manitou's look like, but we do have students coming from those districts as well as Lake George. So one of the things that we have heard through parent conversation is the desire to not have a week off every month, as some of the districts do. So we've shortened that timeline. So we have, I think we have actually a few more minutes, a few more hours of time. But for the most part, our Christmas is the same. Thanksgiving break is the same. Spring break is the same. Summer's pretty much the same. So yes.
Very good. You
Yeah.
can manipulate everything with a couple minutes here or there.
That's right.
Thank you.
Can I ask, Laura, do you have a copy here of, you saw the PUD amendment of the document that was proposed to be changed, and where is the existing wording on uses, and where would it be adding a reference to school or educational services? Or
I do. Let me find it.
I'd like to see what the character of the list looks like, what we're saying. We want to make does school include college, different considerations entirely for traffic and other things too. So I think we'd like to define what we're talking about, without being ridiculously narrow, to be somewhat focused on what the need is here, which is intended apparently to be temporary within 2 or 3 years.
Right, so the original PUD document, which is up there, which is an ALTA survey, and again, it didn't even list uses specifically, it just said shopping center. But the uses that were existing at the time that this zoning went into place were the commercial business and retail uses. And we are simply adding school use. And that is based on what we currently have in our table of uses. And the table of uses, and let me just pull that up.
While Laura is looking for that, in 1997, when the PUD was established, that zoning ordinance did not list the uses. So the best document we have is this ALTA survey and what the existing types of uses were in 1997, which was basically retail, office, restaurant, those standard shopping center uses.
I can't read all the writing on it. Does it say that somewhere in this, or is it just sort of inferred from the environment, legal environment existing at the time this was adopted?
That's exactly right.
So what would get added in addition to commercial uses previously authorized use in building in lots 2 and 3 as a school would be authorized, something like that?
Yes. The term school is what would get authorized. So currently in our table of uses, we have under institutional, public, and semi-public uses, private and parochial elementary and secondary schools meeting site standards established with public schools. And then we have trade or vocational schools. So this is simply going to allow a more broad schools.
More broad than what?
More broad than even what our land use table in the municipal code would.
But I don't want it to be so broad that it picks up colleges, trade schools. I mean, some of those may or may not be appropriate, but we certainly haven't addressed it here. So
We
if school
can
doesn't,
define it.
if school doesn't do it, and I asked them, contract school, is that a term that works here? Or it's a public contract school. I mean, I want to get language for the land use purposes that matches what you're doing. And
I found myself absolutely nodding with you, so thank you. I think it's a good question. I believe that there is a distinction in other venues or other jurisdictions I've seen that differentiates between schools and colleges or universities. And I think you're safe in schools being generally accepted or universally accepted as K through 12. So I think you've got that limitation. The contract school is not going to be, you're not going to find that in any of your books in terms of that definition.
Yeah, I'm just not sure we've really got school in any of our books either, just to say what it is.
But I do think it distinguishes from college or university.
Thank you. Understand it's a BOCES school through what is that, the revision program, and they've got a term that they're using to change education in the future. and it's going through that. You're simply administering the public school for them, so you will be treated as a public school under contract with them. Okay, am I right on that? Okay. Anybody else? At this point,
Yeah, you
Glenn,
see, we do have a definition. of School includes college.
We do have,
Post-secondary.
we do have a definition of school.
No, but
Sure.
I'm saying,
And it is just as that gentleman had suggested, it's A, college or university, B, K-12.
exactly. And what I'm saying is the A is not, it is not what we're talking about, and it would have different implications, different land use implications, totally different traffic requirements and such. So school doesn't.
So we
school is
could
too-
label
school
this
is
as
too broad
K-12.
as defined in our ordinance.
Yes.
The application actually says, or maybe the staff report talks about K through 8-2, so we could further define what that was.
It'll eventually be
Is
K
there-
through 12, but you're also teaching college level courses and prep courses, just like public school. Public school are doing. They're doing it right now, right?
That's not
now.
post-secondary.
They're doing it. Just do it. They can test all of that. What is Parks doing?
Yes, so we will grow to K-12. We will not be in that building when we get there. So none of our students will be 16 when we're there. Right now, 8th is our oldest age. 9th will be the following year, 10th. Most students don't start driving till they're juniors, in which case we would be out of the building, or we would just continue to include a caveat that we do not have student parking. So there is no student driving.
I would recommend that the language we put in authorizing for school, right, school parenthesis grades K-12, close paren.
And
Answer the
that can be
question.
done right in the recommendation after the word school.
Counselor, you have a problem with that?
We agree.
Okay. fine. At this point, I would entertain a motion in a second.
Can we have a little bit more discussion?
Sure.
Okay. Was staff aware, and I didn't see this in the staff report, Laura, about the temporary nature of this school?
Yes.
Why was that not mentioned in the staff report?
Staff does not believe it's relevant.
Okay,
They're applying for school use, if it's 1 year or 50 years,
okay.
same impacts.
Well, I beg to differ, because my main two concerns about this particular project was the traffic flow, interacting with the commercial center, the highway, the interaction with Loaf and Jug. Right now, it's a mess down there anyway. To add school and children and students into that area, I thought traffic flow was not acceptable. And I was pretty much determined by the staff report that I was not going to support this. The other effort or consideration was a direct need for this use at this particular location. And I could not see the interaction between a school and the shopping center and the other uses in the area. However, by being framed as a temporary school, these things can be taken care of through the management plan they have in place. It wouldn't be permanent, and those issues are minimized because it's temporary. And I think it's very important that we look at it that way.
If you're interested, you can certainly propose that this be on a limited basis through 2025, or something else. I'm just
Well, we
saying, if
can.
that's a concern, you can identify it and see if the commission
No,
agrees or disagrees.
I heard testimony tonight that it's going to be a temporary use, and that's good enough.
All right. Anybody else?
I just want to state my concern on the parking situation. Based on the square footages of Mr. Page and a very lenient occupancy rate of the buildings, the office building itself at a 1 to 100's occupancy, one person per 100 square feet, gives us 84 occupants. Even accounting for one parking space for every 2 people, that comes down to 44. the school itself has to have 22 to 55 parking spaces per staff. And that, cutting it down the middle, gives us 38. We take the balance of the building, the 29,000 square feet, less the school, some 17,000 square feet, and accounting generously for one parking space for 500 square feet, gives us another 30 spaces. So the total parking on rough numbers comes out to 102. The parking facilities on site is only 82. So I believe those are close to within the code requirements, are probably generously low based on code. So I'm disappointed that we didn't get an analysis of what the parking requirements are. And now I'm torn between the use, which I think is reasonable, versus the meeting the requirements of the facility. I guess that's the quandary I have right now.
If I could add a little bit more information about parking, the store owners, business owners typically park in the back of these buildings. And there is actually a lot to the south behind the Fusion
Were those
Japan.
included in the 82 spaces available?
They were not. They were not. And then what we typically see with most businesses, people are in and out. They don't stay in the parking lot very long. If you're a Sherwin-Williams customer, you may spend 15, 20 minutes in the paint store, but typically they're in and out. And so these parking spaces turn over very frequently. And there is alternate spaces. Of the 14 full-time staff and the 9 part-time staff, that's a total of 23 adults driving and staying at the school. So 82, we feel, is pretty comfortable. Total spaces.
So doesn't the parking criteria take into account the turnover of a commercial space? Or a
Not
retail
necessarily.
space?
No, it's a flat rate, 1 stall per 200 square feet. It doesn't even account for the vacant. The end building is vacant. It has been for.
But if that were to come up and Mr. Page finds a tenant who wants to lease it out fully, he would not go through a planning review. So it's probably a use by right. It's not a change of use. So he can move somebody in next week, fill the building entirely and take up those 40, 50 spaces that are needed without coming to us. So we're looking at the overall PUD and development. And so we're supposed to look at the surrounding uses and what the parking is and the traffic is for those uses as well as the proposed use now. So that's the concern.
Mr. Page, you had your hand up in the air.
I've got a comment if you'd like as well.
You can,
You'll need to come to the mic.
you'll give your own. And then you can make your statement. Is that okay?
And just while he's coming to the mic, Hometown Garage is limited to 17 spaces, which are not included in the 82. And we're working with a violation notice with Hometown Garage to get them to be more efficient with the use of their 17 spaces.
Mr. Page.
I wanted to, my name is William Page. I wanted to speak to the concept of shopping centers, how they were developed in some of the overall strategy that was conducted by various real estate development countries in this companies in this country, starting back in the 50s and the 60s and 70s. They formed an organization called the Urban Land Institute, ULI. And that was a group of commercial property owners that owned, Main Street USA was kind of going away And the first successful shopping center was built in Kansas City in the 30s, 1930s, a concept. And so anyhow, they formed an organization studying parking in shopping centers. And I have a book, it was published in 1968 or so, and it's called Shared Parking, published by the Urban Land Institute. I have showed that to Sally Riley before. And the concept is different businesses. You can have a movie theater, their customers don't show up till mid-afternoon or maybe just in the evening. You can have a retail businesses that open at 10 o'clock and close, it depends what the demographics are and the population, buying population is. They have different hours. But the idea is all these different shared uses, they come up with a concept and they had tables they developed on various shopping centers in various cities across the country here. And they come up with this shared parking concept. I have the book. I go get it, bring it back and show it to you. And it's got a picture of I think a 1968, 65 vehicles on the front of it, with a parking lot. So the concept is each business does not have to have its own separate parking. If they're only using it 20% of the 24-hour period or 30%, it's shared. So I just want to explain that concept to you. It's called Urban Land Institute. And, and I attended many conferences at International Shopping Center Council, annual conventions and so on. And so I want to just have you think about the shared parking concept. Any other questions?
Any question?
I'll just make a comment, and I'm familiar with that concept, but we have not been presented with any calculations to support the use of that. Maybe if somebody had brought the book up last week and we could have looked at that a little bit more, we'd have justification for allowing the 82 spaces as being adequate. So I'm kind of.
Okay, I can understand that. At the time I started building Gold Hill Square North and South back in the early 70s and 60s and 80s and so on, the city ordinances for parking were way off what it should be. I provided more than, I did my parking for retail at 4.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet. The city's code is now 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet or 200 square feet. And the city's requirements were like 2 spaces per 1,000 square foot. So I built that shopping center with parking for 4.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet when I was only required to do 2.5. So.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely. I'm sorry I stood up abruptly. I don't have a book, I'm sorry. But to your point, what we're doing is actually alleviating the historical issue. We can't be responsible for what was approved in the past, but our use is actually less dense and not time sensitively, but we're not going to use as many spaces per 1,000 square foot as other users would, as the Ent building would, or what have you. So we're actually an improvement. So in my view, this is a optimal sort of transition because we're saving spaces. We're not going to use as many per square foot, period.
Thank you. One of the things that during your presentation, you start at 7:50. Who's open in that area at 7:50? Wendy's? Cleaners? There's about 4 or 5 people that are open. It's absolutely ideal because a big store would create more problems. Because then you leave at 3 o'clock. It's not rush hour. It's not people getting off work. It's not people coming in to do their shopping before they go home. So I think it fits. Just because of the fact it's a school, it really does. And we just have to wait and see if it works. Might have to build quicker. That's not bad anyway. Any other questions?
I just have one concern again, and that's with traffic flow, and the traffic flow goes from the highway through the shopping center, around the building, down below to the loading area. I would strongly recommend seriously asking you to consider a physical barrier on your property that separates the drop-off area from the area to the north. You know, children will get out of their car to come into the school. They won't be paying that much attention to what's behind them. I think from a safety factor, please consider thinking of that obstruction for they cannot accidentally run out in front of cars.
If you do that, make sure a bus can make a turn. At 350, diesels can make a turn, trucks, because radiuses are totally different.
Yes.
If somebody comes up with a Prius.
And I think, Laura, I think you were alluding to this recently with your mouse. Yes, there is already barriers, concrete barriers there. And there has been discussion in moving them over towards 24. So there are concrete barriers in place, and that has been one of the discussions that we've had.
Good, thank you.
Okay. At this point, we'll start over again. A motion and a second. Or did we already have that?
No. Laura, can you bring up your recommendation? Thank you. I see some people looking at me. Okay. I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission approve the request by the Merit Academy and Echo Architecture, Ryan Lloyd Architect, Gold Hill Square South LLC, William Page property owner, to amend the plan unit development PUD to permit a school grades K-12 closed paren use at 703 to 739 Gold Hill Place, part of Building 6 and lots 2-3 Pages subdivision, closed paren, Gold Hill Square South PUD zone district.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second.
There was some discussion about the definition of school. Did you include the?
I
Okay,
add
sorry.
school as grades K-12.
Okay, excuse me.
Would you call for the question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ken Hartsfield,
Yes.
Lee Brown,
Yes.
Al Bungie,
Yes.
Ellen Carrick,
Yes.
Larry Larson,
Yes.
and John DeVoe.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And we join the Civil Air Patrol too. Thank you. Thank you for all coming in. Thank you for being polite. Thank you for being attentive and putting up with us for a while, but you've got a lot of work ahead of you.
Thank you.
What's the bench? Oh, yeah, not that formal.
Thank you all. Sorry to be a great question.
My wife's a math teacher at the high school.
Oh, okay, okay.
75 years old. She's been there. And we all say, good luck. I read your school manual. I read your school manual that told me.
You got my change language. Yes.
Okay, let's get out of here. There was a football. on.
32.
32. Others to give this property.
120. They have to do reports. It has to do with the approval process.
Okay, at this point in time, what we have left is reports.
Would you write your number down for you guys?
Reports? Hearing no reports.
The only report I have is that our next meeting will be August 12th, 5:30. So, and I will have snacks for you as well.
Anything else for the good of the order? I need a motion. Anybody else want to say anything? Motion to adjourn? Adjourn.
Okay.
We're adjourned.
Thank you. Okay.
I didn't quite make it.